Hello and welcome back to the channel. I have a very disturbing story that I'm going to be sharing with you, which was shared with me by one of my viewers. This is disturbing on so many levels because there should be something that can be done about this type of theft. This is some bold stuff, y'all. Apparently, this woman had her house taken by the state because she missed $900 in property taxes. Now, this is something that has been going on, I believe, in 11 states, and they are trying to undo this, where a state official can just opt to take your home. Even if you offer to pay off the arrearage, they say, nope, too late, we're going to take it anyway. Home stealing by officials. Anyway, I want you to listen to this woman's story because it is just awful. She had a ton of equity in this home, close to $300,000 in equity. That's like robbing someone. That's like a bank robbery. Anyway, I want you to take a listen at this horrible story, and I will be right back.
Did you know that in some states, if you miss one tax payment, local politicians will take your home, sell it, and keep all the profits? Really? Tawanda Hall was behind on her taxes. She was on a payment plan but had missed $900. She didn't expect Southfield, Michigan, to take her entire house because of that. It was worth $286,000 more than what she owed. "I'm still in shock," says Tawanda Hall in my new video. "They took my whole house, my whole family's livelihood." John Bursch, a lawyer for the county, says while this practice may sound unfair, yes, it sure does, it's also unfair to force those who pay their taxes to subsidize those who don't. "I pay taxes," Hall responds. She works as a nursing assistant. "I lift people. I bathe people. I work hard." When Hall found out she was going to lose her home, she tried to pay off the debt. "I went to the mayor's office, I went down to the city-county building," she says. "They didn't want our money. They said no. They wanted her house. Taking it should be illegal." "I think it's unconstitutional," says Christina Martin, senior attorney at the Pacific Legal Foundation. "The government can't take more than it's owed." The foundation is suing local governments in 6 states for this type of home theft. Martin won one case in Michigan's Supreme Court. Oakland County had taken an entire home over an $8 debt. Matthew Hodges, the county's lawyer, argued there couldn't be anything more fair than informing property owners of what is going to happen, giving them time to act, and then letting them make an informed choice. Martin's response: "Do you think if he knew he owed $8, he would have paid it? Of course. He didn't know, and there wasn't the proper incentive to let him know. In fact, the town has an incentive not to let him know. Officials rarely tell people, pay, or we'll take your home." Towns that do this write notices in legalese, a tax lien acquired under a certain instrument of taking from the collector of taxes for the city. Said instrument of taking covers a certain parcel of land. Hall doesn't remember receiving anything other than, "Get out." Despite the Michigan Supreme Court ruling, a judge dismissed Hall's case because the government itself did not make the profit. In her case, the town gave her home to a private business. That business, the Southfield Neighborhood Revitalization Initiative, sold the house and kept the money. The business says it uses the town's donations to maintain attractive, safe neighborhoods, protect and raise property values. Government shouldn't be able to steal from its own people and then give it over to their friends, says Martin. Liable to lay out facts about law clerks' writings and associations, and say clerk is thus likely the leaker? I ask her how she knows Southfield neighborhood revitalization officials are friends of the politicians. She replies, "The company is literally run by the mayor and the city administrator. I wanted to interview them. Neither would agree to talk to me. I'm surprised how common this kind of government home theft is. If you are behind on taxes, even just $10 behind, 11 states allow local governments to sell your home and keep all its value. In Massachusetts, a 66-year-old grandmother is sleeping in her car right now, says Martin. The city took her property, turned around and sold it within days of evicting her. Although her debt was just $30,000, they sold her house for $242,000 and kept the difference. The Pacific Legal Foundation has gotten 3 states to stop engaging in this home equity theft. Good. 11 more to go.
Okay, so that was really hard to listen to because of the nature of this. I mean, they literally stole this woman's house. But I have some more details that I'm going to be sharing with you about her story. This is just awful. It says this nursing home assistant lost her home and her husband to Michigan's home equity theft scheme. Tawanda Hall is a Michigan-based nursing assistant and a mother of 4. For nearly a decade, she raised her family in a home she and her husband, Prentice, purchased in the city of Southfield. When they bought the house, it was damaged and in desperate need of repairs. Together, the family moved in and set to work turning the house into their home. The new space was perfect for their family and gave them access to great schools. Not only was it big enough for their own household, but it also provided the room necessary for Tawanda's ill mother-in-law to move in and receive the care she needed. It was in this home where the family's most precious memories were made, as Tawanda recalls. These cherished moments are just distant memories now that the family lost their home to the city's tax and take scheme, what we call home equity theft, or which they were completely unaware. Unfortunately, the Halls experienced financial difficulties that resulted in the couple falling behind on their property taxes. The Halls wanted to pay their debt and worked with the local government to get on a payment plan, making substantial payments on the debt. The Oakland County Treasurer ended the plan, however, with the tax debt standing at $22,642 and foreclosed on their home. Tawanda was shocked. She immediately ran down to the county's treasurer's office, prepared to pay the entire year, even if that meant taking out a loan to do so. Again, the county told her that it was too late. She couldn't quite grasp how something like this could happen or why it was allowed to happen. The whole thing felt so wrong. She called whoever she could looking for answers and solutions. She even called the mayor's office. When no one was able or willing to help her, she and 7 other former homeowners filed a lawsuit. The Halls had fallen prey to the local government's use of home equity theft, a tool governments use to take private property and sell the property without compensating the owners. In the Halls case, the local government took from them not only the value of debt, but every penny of equity they had built up in the house. Instead of selling the house at the public auction, paying off the debt, and returning the surplus minus interest and penalties to the homeowners, the city used the Hall's money to enrich a private company, Southfield Neighborhood Revitalization Initiative, LLC, managed by City of Southfield officials. Through a sense of legal transaction, the county took the Hall's home and the home of 7 other homeowners party to the case and transferred it through the City of Southfield to the private company, which sold it for more than $300,000. The Halls received none of the difference between the debt they owed and the sale price. The public-private arrangement was set up in 2016 through a city resolution that was supposed to prevent blight. Southfield took advantage of state law allowing cities a right to first refusal to buy foreclosed homes from the county for the cost of tax debt. The Southfield Nonprofit Housing Corporation reimbursed the city for the amount of the tax debt, which then gave the property for $1 to the nonprofit's for-profit company to be sold. The Detroit News reported that the company generated as much as $10 million from 138 properties from 2016 to 2019 after covering more than $2 million in tax debts to acquire the properties from the city. The former owners of these properties lost everything and received nothing from the surplus value of the properties taken from them. One court has called the troubling scheme shocking to the conscience and one which rightfully breeds distrust among the electorate. The Halls sued the city, county, nonprofit, and company for violating the taking clause. The taking clause of the Fifth Amendment requires the government to give just compensation when they take an individual's property. The value of Hall's property far exceeded the amount of taxes owed under the Constitution. Governments are allowed to take only the amount that covers the missed payment. Instead, the city violated the law of the land at the expense of the Hall's property rights and well-being. The devastation from the foreclosure was unsurmountable, and the corresponding stress it caused was unbearable. From that point on, both Tawanda's and her husband's lives started to spiral. Trapped under the weight of the great burden, the family began to struggle, and her husband's health began to deteriorate. In the midst of it all, the family still had to prepare to move out of the home where they had put down roots. "I couldn't even pack," she said. "I just threw everything in bags and was just dragging it. It was one of the worst things ever." About 6 months after they were forced out of their home under the severe financial stress, her husband fell while he was at work. He didn't know he had been suffering from pneumonia and continued to work to provide for his family. He suffered brain damage from the fall. He was eventually placed in hospice, given a feeding tube, and brought home for his final days, where Tawanda cared for him until he died. She barely had time to grieve the loss of her husband before tragedy struck the family once more. Her brother died of an infection just days later. Impossible as it felt at the time, she knew she had to keep going for her children. Like any parent, they want to see them do well. At some point, hopefully, we'll be able to sit back and just relax. Searching for explanation as to why this was allowed to happen, she was horrified to discover that her family was not alone. She spoke with others who had found themselves in similar situations. Each person with a devastating story led to another person with an equally devastating story. As she began putting the pieces together, she realized that the city had a pattern of taking people's property without just compensation. You always think something like this doesn't happen, and then it happens. Then you wonder, how do people get away with that? It was around this time that she learned about Pacific Legal Foundation and the work we do to end the practice of home equity theft. We are now helping Tawanda appeal her case and fight back against the unjust policy that has caused her family so much hardship. Tawanda is still flabbergasted by the whole situation. Wow. How do you even sleep at night knowing that you've done this to several people and destroyed several families? I just don't understand. After everything she has endured, Tawanda often feels she doesn't have the energy to fight. But as she says, just keep on moving, and I'm glad that there are people out here trying and listening. And I just hope and pray I leave this earth, that before I leave this earth, I can see that everything gets something, that everyone gets something. It's just horrible. I think about how many elderly people out here that just stayed in their houses for years and retired in and don't have any income coming in. Winning this case would mean everything to Tawanda. As the fight continues, the family is living in Detroit while they try to rebuild their life. Tawanda still drives by her own home on occasion, where she often sees kids' bikes out front, a painful reminder of the days when her own children laughed and played in the same yard. There are at least 12 states that use home equity theft to seize your property, sell it, and leave you with nothing. But as long as this unjust practice continues, PLF will be there to help families like the Halls fight for their constitutional rights. That's just awful. Reading that was breathtaking, and it's equally devastating to hear that such a practice could be in place. But this is a country that literally took this land from the Native Americans and decided that the best way to take it and feel guiltless is just to end their lives. So I'm not surprised that there are laws that exist to allow this type of thing to happen. This is very sad indeed. I hope this woman and all others who have been victimized by this, I hope they find justice. I hope that they get what they deserve, but this woman in the process has lost her husband. This is devastating. I don't know how they're saying that she missed $900 in property taxes, or if that was just a payment that was missed that was going towards the $22,000 owed. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like it was a $900 payment that was going towards the arrearage, and the city just decided that the payment plan was null and void now. But at any rate, this is still sad, and it's horrible how laws can impact a person's life like this, or impact people's lives in this way. This is devastating, y'all. I don't like hearing this kind of stuff happening to people. This is awful. This is just awful. Anyway, I'm done sharing the story. I just want you all to leave your comments below. Share your thoughts on this. If you've experienced something similar, share your story as well. Until next time, I'm out. Be sure to ring the bell to be notified of new uploads on this channel, and also comment, share, like, and subscribe.